and welcome to part 2 of my Mind Matters interview with Mikey Chapman of Mallory Knox. In this part we discuss triggers, the importance of communication and what society and the government could be doing to support those affected by mental health issues. Get more aware of what the triggers are and the best way to deal with them, the more you have them. You go, that didn't work, so this maybe is a better way to deal with it.
Absolutely, and I think this is why, you know, so many people go like, well, I mean, so many people are talking at the moment about let's have conversations about mental health. Let's actually like talk about it and openly and frankly about it. And it's largely because I'm a 27-year-old man, and it's only been in the last couple of years that I've actually been able to start discovering things for myself. I feel like the Phoebe Buffet of like mental health, because I'm teaching myself how to deal with mental health, which is insane in 2017. You know, I know precisely what to do for X, Y and Z that are normal aspects of life, but when it comes to mental health, there's so little discussion and dialogue and openness about it that for those of us that do in some form struggle with it, or even people that don't recognise that they struggle with it, it's very difficult to get to those points of realisation and points of understanding. You know, you can, I think, I mean, I've spoken to a couple of sort of healthcare professionals, I suppose, over the time, never very intensely and never to the point where obviously we've broken much ground, but it's very enlightening when you do speak to someone like that who does spend all day, every day in a scenario with people with mental health and stuff, who have trained in understanding and realising symptoms and recognising things and sort of solving these kind of problems. That they'll say one thing and you'll just be like, how did I not see that?
Yeah, I had so many of those moments. Oh yeah!
How did I, like, I've been sat here in bed worrying for the last 3.5 years and really intensely studying, you know, and analysing and over-analysing time and time again, and you've just said 5 seconds of words and it's made more sense in that 5 seconds of words than all my thinkings over all of that time, you know. And this is why it's so crucially important, because one person out there on the internet, you know, who may have been through all of this for the last 20 years of their life, may be able to impart information to a young person in one sentence that will save them 10 years worth of that's right, 10 years worth of losing your skin on your fingers. Do you know what I mean? It's so important for us to gel as a, I really don't like to use the word community in that sense, because I don't think it, you know, you don't want to kind of, I don't know, you do want to normalise it, but you don't want to kind of make it sort of a thing, you know. But there is a dialogue that as a sort of, I suppose, wider community of people that we need to start understanding, and also allowing opportunities for people that have never really suffered with this kind of stuff to kind of begin to see that, oh, okay, well, there is a bit of a commonality between all of these people, and there is a bit of a, you know, there are a few trigger kind of things that are going on in society that maybe we do need to address. It doesn't affect me, but my sister has it, and my auntie has it, and my best friend has it, and my boss has it, and, you know, then you can even start bringing in the people that have never suffered into the dialogue and into the discussion.
I think that's very important, so then they can cope with people when they're having their down days and not feel awkward and like, what do I say, 100%. What do I do?
You know, so for when I am, you know, distancing myself from person A, you know, they can understand that it isn't a personal thing, it isn't them specifically, it's the fact that that week I need to go and bury my head under my pillows and watch some Netflix or something, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's definitely something that I think us as a generation and the younger people sort of need to kind of move forward into, so by the time we're the old gits, that, you know, we can make sure that all the little ones that, you know, heaven forbid, do have some sort of this way of being, can cope with it in a much quicker and more efficient way than we ever have dreamt to be able to.
I think it would be helpful, because I think a lot of the problem is our generation, like our parents, like a lot of the dads, for instance, no, you don't have a mental health problem.
No, that's right.
Son, you can't say that. You're a strong man. But,
absolutely, it's a proper like stiff upper lip mentality. You know, it's a stiff upper lip mentality, because which I understand. I think there has to always be an element of that with this stuff, because let's be honest, like, if I was left to my vices and I was left to my feelings and stuff, and that solely, I wouldn't be doing what I do. I wouldn't be sat here chatting to you.
I wouldn't be here.
That's what I mean. Well, absolutely. I mean, to be perfectly serious, you know, if you gave into those urges and those inhibitions, like at the certain points in your life, yeah, it wouldn't function, it wouldn't work. So that stiff upper lip mentality is definitely an aspect of it. But unfortunately, I think as a nation, maybe internationally, I couldn't particularly say, but I think we've existed with that notion far too long, and we've never just turned around and gone, do you know what? I've had myself, my dad, my granddad, my great-granddad, my great-great-granddad, you know, all the way back to whenever, have had this mentality. And where's it gotten us, really? Do you know what I mean? Who is looking after us? Who is watching out for the mental well-being of a man that has to work 70 odd hours a week and then comes home to see his kid for like an hour and a half each night, and he can still barely keep his eyes open, all that kind of stuff? What happens when that guy at 47 kills himself and all his mates go, I don't know what happened, he had everything. Do you know what I mean? He had a nice house, he had a family, he had a great job, and it's like, mate, it's because you're not looking at it in the right angle, you're not looking at it from the right angle. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, the guy had everything, and yet it still wasn't enough. So what is it that we're not doing? What is it that our officials and the people of government and these people that are instilled and paid and put into these places doing to rectify these issues? You know, what are we as a community doing to understand the plights of these people and the sufferings of people that you may never meet, but but those attributes of that person and that suffering may one day affect you or your children or your grandchildren or whatever. You know, it's in all of our vested interest to beat something like this, because it will inevitably affect you or someone you love at some point in your life. And what more justification do you need to kind of make this thing, to nip this in the bud, so to speak?
And my fear is it's just going to get worse with the pressures on the youth of today with social media and stuff and consumer culture. I just think
I couldn't agree more.
I'm scared about having kids, to be honest, because of that thing.
Absolutely.
But anyway, talking about communication, how important that is, honestly, do you on those bad days go, guys, I'm having a bad day, if I'm a bit shitty today, if I'm a bit off with you, that's why? Or do you like do it via a tweet, like a vague tweet that says
I don't even do that, if I'm honest with you. I must admit I'm very bad at that, because I think that a thing that you don't sometimes maybe isn't, I don't know if it's the same for everyone, but for me, I find myself to be quite sort of an empathetic person. I really feel what other people are feeling, and so from that I find it very difficult sometimes, especially if I'm anxious and I've led myself down like a mental path, a train of thought, where I've kind of gone, oh, I'm affecting everyone, I'm being I'm being really sad and everyone's kind of suffering as a result of that and things like that. I'd rather be quiet, I'd rather sit in the corner, and I'd rather kind of just keep it to myself as best I can in order to avoid any kind of real, I don't know, real confrontation or real kind of conversation about it, because then it's out in the open. Then people who weren't astute enough to see that I was struggling and now in on it, and now they're thinking about it, and now they're worrying about
what
it.
Do you want to say to it
that's
now?
right, you know. And I'd rather just spend that day being quiet. But unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily work in your favour and in your best interest. You know, I think communication, while I'm sat here happy with you, you know, after having a nice drink down the pub or whatever, like, I can say quite honestly, communication is massively the key. I think especially for those people that love you, you know, they want to know, and even if they can't help, they want to know how you're feeling on that day, so that they can operate their life around how you are at that moment, which I think is a wonderful thing. But when in that moment, it's very difficult to have that realisation, you know, and proceed accordingly.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know, but the best thing that's come from me, like doing the blogs about my own stuff and the videos, is the amount of people that come to me that are kind of acquaintances or people that we have those kind of surface conversations with. Hi, how's life? Yeah, good, thanks, yeah, wicked. They come to me and they actually go, things aren't wicked with me. Yeah. I've been struggling with this too. And you get this whole like essay of these deep feelings.
Absolutely.
And it just encourages people to be vulnerable with you.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to reveal that side to you and your struggles.
Absolutely.
So that's the best thing for me.
I think it's a fact. I mean, I suppose it gets a little bit deep and sociological here, but when you think of how us as human beings kind of grew up, shall we say, you know, through our kind of process of turning from little ape creatures into now, we we lived in small tribes, we lived in small communities, tiny communities where you knew everyone not only by name, but you saw them born, you saw them, you know, you saw every aspect of their lives, which included the tough times and the struggles and stuff, because and the fact that you lived in a small community, you shared those struggles together. You didn't even need to communicate them because they were so close that you could see them. You know, you could understand where that person was coming from because you'd known all of that kind of stuff. And I'm not, by no means am I saying that we all need to like bare our deepest, darkest secrets to one another, but that, I think the distance that we find between one another now in such a close age is very ironic, and it's very sad, because I think there's fundamentals of that kind of tribe mentality that we need to maintain in order to feel connected and feel like we're not isolated in these instances. You know, so the fact that your friends or these acquaintances even come forward and tell you, yeah, I'm not the best, I'm not feeling right at the moment, you know, when there's some mega star that's like selling millions of records or something, or they're you know, some big shot businessman who's got more confidence than you could ever hope to have.
Or
you know,
a beautiful model that you've always looked to, thinking she's got everything.
Exactly. You know, you can begin to build a mental community of people that actually kind of maybe don't see them all the time and stuff, but you can have that kind of that reassurance that you're not going through it alone, you know, in some way. You know, I mean, maybe you do at times still feel very isolated and alone, but to understand that we are all one, essentially, we are all so much the same. You know, the fact that if someone went through, if I went through your life from beginning to end, I would probably have come to the same point, you know, mentally and stuff that you maybe are at now, and likewise for you to me, or us dropping into the shoes of anyone else. You know, we're all sort of, I suppose, byproducts of our environment and our life and our history, and I don't know, to kind of open ourselves up in some way and build that kind of framework of understanding and empathy and stuff. It can't be a bad thing. How could it possibly be a bad thing? You know, we're coming out of this era, you know, this sort of like not so much the Victorian style, but like, you know, post-war kind of like, as you say, we said before, stiff upper lip, like keep yourself to yourself, like our family business is family business. Let's not involve anyone else and stuff. I mean, we're deliberately sort of socially isolating ourselves, and then we wonder why we feel so alone.
You just need to think a bit more, and it all makes sense, doesn't it?
We just need to kind of connect a bit more. You know, and I love that is being attempted, and that is happening all across the world, and I think the internet is a wonderful tool for that, as long as it is used for that, and it's not used for, look how much greater than I am than you, look how much better my life is than you, let's just show everyone my highlight reel,
that is the main issue. It's the editing of our lives that make everyone think everyone's got more than you. Or
absolutely, and it's a byproduct of this isolated nature that we have. It's like, you know, what do the Fergusons over the hedge think? You know what I mean? Like, oh, we need to make sure they think we're like really wealthy and we're really successful and all our children are really happy and that they're doing their homework on time. That's what I mean. You know, it's that era. It's that Stepford kind of like keeping up appearances, Mrs. Bouquet bollocks that like we really need to lose, because when we can sit down and we can have a conversation like this, the whole dynamic of it changes, the whole framework and the whole. Yeah, I don't know. Just
realness, isn't it?
It's exactly. That's exactly it. You know, and I think, as I say, there's going to be a lot of things that we need to address and deal with as we all get older and a little bit wiser, and we have to take the roles and responsibilities of the people that at the moment aren't particularly doing the best of jobs. And we need to have these discussions at an earlier point, so that when we get to that point, we know a little bit more about what we can do to change that. You know,
it needs to be in the curriculum for a start.
At the very least.
So I could rant about that for ages.
Oh, no, absolutely. You know, exactly. That's the problem with this conversation. It is far longer than we would ever have time for. You know, YouTube would do a fit if we sat and talked about all of the ins and outs of mental health, because it is a sociological issue. It's not just an individual issue. These are you know, we are, mental health is a byproduct of a larger issue, and that larger issue needs to be discussed and addressed before we're ever going to solve any kind of, you know, mental issues that we all may face. You know? That's what it is. There's not a pill that's just going to make it go. You know, it's a social issue. It's a sociological issue that we as a community need to address very much so.
And we've all got a responsibility.
Absolutely, because as I say, it might not affect you, but damn well might affect your child. No one who wants that. I don't want my kids to grow up sad.
Me neither.
Nah.
Let's smile. Shall we end on a smile?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But it's a positive thing because by talking, it's leading us in the right direction.
Exactly.
You know, that's it for me. You know, and that was the way I kind of rationalised it all. Was that like, yeah, I might feel sad, I might never feel completely happy, but I tell you what, if I can do that little bit to change the next generation's perspective on it, you know, or I can help in some way to kind of move the understanding of mental health forward. Even just by having discussions openly and frankly with anyone, you know, then that's what I'm going to do. That's what my purpose is. That's why I feel the way I feel, in order to understand it and to use that somehow to enact some sort of minute change. You know?
I always think there's a positive of everything I've gone through, and I'm more empathetic to people. So we've got to use that.
Exactly.
For good.
That's right. Even if some people aren't doing that whatsoever, we can be the yin to the yang, so to speak, and sort of try and push a little bit more yin through as the time goes on. So yeah.
Let's keep up the good fight.
All right, fight the good fight.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys.